In this video, we will discuss applying rigor to a lesson. In a previous video, we talked about rigor and a definition. Rigor is creating an environment in which each student learns at higher levels with increasing complexity. One way to do that is to think about Bloom's taxonomy. And many of the action verbs in Bloom's taxonomy you will also see in the ELPS guidelines. Another way to look at it is to look at the descriptors themselves. And if you've noticed, it will tell you that an English language learner can, for example, use a very limited set of strategies, emerging, developing, increasing, and finally a wide range. The descriptors, of course, give you more information about all of that, but you can see how we're building rigor throughout the ELPS levels. Let's see how we can add rigor to a WakeTech ESL assignment. For this, we will be using WakeTech ESL Level 2. Step 1. Analyze the activity. The teacher pairs up students and gives the following scenario. Your friend is new to Raleigh. We also need to determine the ELPS level. Now, we already said this is a WakeTech ESL Level 2. We have determined that that would also coincide with ELPS Level 2. But let's continue to look at the activity so that we can discuss why we chose that level. 1. You need to gather information for your friend. Find a nearby DMV office, look up the hours, know the address, and get directions. 2. Research locations, addresses, and hours using the internet. And finally, send an email to your friend with the information you found. So how did we determine that this is ELPS Level 2? Well, to do that, think about our previous video, think about Bloom's taxonomy, and those action verbs. Let's specifically look at number 2. What action verb do you see? You got it, research. We see some others like gather, email, potentially communicate, but let's focus on research because that is clearly stated in ELPS Standard 5, Conduct Research. In terms of level, as stated, we chose ELPS Level 2. We chose this for some different reasons, including a short research project. We have gathering information, recording information, and summarizing. We're not expecting our students to synthesize or apply or critique, which would be higher levels of ELPS. So now that we have determined our ELPS level, let's move on to step number 2, which is to add rigor. Go to the next ELPS level for ideas. You can see our activity here in red is to carry out the research project, gather information, record information, summarize that information. We want to challenge our students, so we have the option of 5 additional descriptors that we can use. You're going to see some of the same action verbs, but also you're going to see things like paraphrase. Now, you do not have to adapt every descriptor. You could choose one of these to do in your class based on your student needs. So let's go a little deeper and pick a descriptor. Our activity is under level 2. We're going to look at the second descriptor, gather information from provided print and digital sources. We're going to find that corresponding descriptor for ELPS Level 3 to add rigor, which is gather information from multiple provided print and digital sources. And you can see there the big difference, multiple. So with sources in mind and the need to ask our students to find multiple sources, let's go to step number 3. Step number 3, we're going to adapt the language from the ELPS Level 3 descriptors for this specific Wake Tech ESL lesson. But what is key is we need to use some student-friendly language, and we need to make sure we're meeting those assignment requirements. So how can we adapt some of that language? Well, let's look at some language that we think might be confusing or new to our students. For example, print and digital sources. Think about how you could change that to be something that is digestible for our students in level 2. But again, we want to challenge them just a tad. We came up with use Google Maps and the DMV site. So we're just going to give them the actual examples that they need. And then of course you can teach that these are examples of print and digital sources. Now the other key aspect is to make sure that we're adapting it to the specific assignment, which is why we added here DMV, find the office that is closest to your friend and is best for that friend's schedule. So let's look at the remaining descriptors and see how we can apply some student-friendly language. So you could see here one word that students might find difficult is paraphrase. What other words do you see here that we could possibly adapt to make more student-friendly? Yeah, probably that oral report, maybe even written an oral report. So think about how you can change that so that an ESL Level 2 student at Wake Tech can understand. We came up with give a short presentation on the information from the DMV website and Google. Use your own words. So instead of saying paraphrase, we have use your own words. Instead of written or oral report, we said short presentation. Descriptor 3 definitely has a lot of vocabulary that would be difficult for a level 2 student or even a level 3 ESL student. Words like illustrations, diagrams, graphics, even appropriate. But how do we change that? In your email to your friend, attach or include an image of the DMV office or a map of the area. And finally, sources might be difficult for students. How do we adapt that? Well, just have them supply the URL link. Most students will understand link. Now again, we're not expecting you to use all of these in terms of having to increase rigor. It depends on your students. You might just pick one or maybe two. But we wanted to show you the examples. So to recap, step 1, analyze the activity and determine the ELPS level. Step 2, to add rigor, go to the next ELPS level for ideas. Don't forget to add the critical thinking. And step 3, adapt the language for a Wake Tech ESL lesson. Make it student friendly. Thank you.